Amanda, you posted the throwback to end all throwbacks.
Oh,
People
yeah.
are freaking out about this. What do you remember about this time in your life?
Is that Mean Girls?
Yeah, it was
nice.
it was our rap party.
Oh,
It was
cool.
my first ever rap party, and I was 18 years old. No, 17. Sorry, I was still 17. Definitely crushing on one of the crew member. Like it was just I was 17, and Lacey was like my best friend. It was so fun. I couldn't believe that I had just done my first movie and that I was having that much fun, and whatever. I was definitely drunk and having the time of my life. I came across all these pictures in my LA place, and I just had to share them. I love reconnecting with my old Mean Girls friends, because we have that lasting connection, of course.
I love seeing the Y2K fashion, like the low-rise jeans.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
so good.
I remember what I wore that night, and I was just like totally low-rise jeans that I straight hair,
Oh, the good old days.
the good old, God, 2003.
I want to talk to you guys about this movie, A Mouthful of Air, of course. It is so powerful. And there were some moments that were kind of hard to watch. I'm sure, obviously, even harder to play. But thank you both for being so brave to tell this story. That's really hard to talk about in private and publicly even more. Amanda, I want to start with you. For those scenes that were a little bit more difficult, why is this a must watch for everybody, even though it might not be necessarily as fun of a viewing as some other films?
I think movies are made, stories are told so people can understand each other. And I think if people walk away, I think it's important to understand somebody else's experience and somebody else's suffering. Compassion is what we need. This is how the world works, and the world goes around. It's how good things are done and people are protected through compassion. And Amy, the director and writer, has just more compassion than anyone in the world. And so from her perspective, telling this story from her wildly fascinating perspective and really grounded perspective is just really important to get that message across. And it was really important for me to get Julie as much as possible. I have a lot of connections to this character. I have a lot of connections to Amy, and Amy to the character, obviously. Yeah. It's like I love comedies. I love doing musicals. But this stuff, it's hard to get made because it's true and it's real and it's not formulaic. And I think it can change things for people for the better. And I have no doubt that if people see this movie, they'll understand this kind of mental illness better. And also the struggle of just new parents, maternal mental health and postpartum depression. It's a real thing. And it's a lot of people suffer.
And parenthood is two-party game here. Finn, I know that you have a little one at home as well. Did you feel like you related to your character as a father?
No, sorry. I'm not telling
Giving
you.
her secret.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
God.
I did. I think I definitely couldn't have played the part in the same way without having a kid. And at the time when we filmed it, it was like 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
He was really,
exactly.
really, really little then.
Oh my God.
So I was in the thick of it at that point. And I think it's like, you don't know how much you can love something until you have the child. It kind of breaks your whole head open, like how deeply in love you become. And I think having gone through that myself very recently, kind of just opened me up in a way that probably wouldn't have without having my own little guy in there. But Ethan's struggling with trying to connect with Julie. That's like so much of what he's trying to go through. He's so enamored and in love with her, and yet he's disconnected because he's helpless, and so I think that's really hard and can also for the partner be a very lonely place to be.
And Amanda, you've been open about your postpartum journey, not necessarily depression, exactly, not necessarily, but as a mother. Did you draw from your own experience as a mother for this role? And were there some moments that maybe felt a little cathartic?
Oh, yeah. I will say this was the only time in my entire career that I was given the opportunity just to have time while the camera was rolling to experience whatever I was feeling. and I think it makes the whole movie better because I was able to, there was some real truth in some of what I was able to, the space I was able to fill. And you don't get that very often. And uh, it was very cathartic. I have, there's a lot of similarities between Julie and the character Julie and myself, like I said, and um, to play that on screen in order to enact some kind of positive change at the end of the day is always something that feels incredible and rare. Like what our jobs, we're so lucky, especially when it's this nature. And yeah, it felt, I mean, Amy, working together with Amy, like we really were a team, and it felt like she understood exactly what I was experiencing at the time I was experiencing it, and the fears that I had and going into having a second kid. And it was just, I felt supported, and I felt like I was supporting her. And then because of that, it felt like I was supporting so many mothers. And that collective feeling that that you're doing something um that that could go far is just like, oh, it's incredible. It's so cathartic. It's like, so you just don't get to do movies like this very often. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. And Finn, why do you feel that this is such an important story to put out there as well from your perspective?
Well, I think it's easy to look at statistics. 1 in 5 women suffer from postpartum depression, or maybe it's 1 in 7.
Yeah.
But it's easy. We can all read diagnoses. We can all understand it sort of in a left-brained way. But I think to see an individual woman going through a very specific thing in her life humanizes it and makes it accessible and something you could connect with, and not just a number. And to kind of realize that this happens every day to millions of women, and we don't talk about it very much. And certainly not in the movie world. So yeah, just humanizing and opening things that small a degree is, I think, small but significant.
Yeah, I think it's so